everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. I'm super excited for today's video, but before we get started, be sure that you're following me on Instagram. I post lots of fun little tips, tricks, hacks, all the fun things over there, plus some crafts that I don't necessarily show you here on YouTube. Today's video, we are going to be making an awesome neon sign using the Glowforge. If you guys didn't know, I've partnered with Glowforge and I can offer you up to $500 off of your very own Glowforge machine at the link down below. But I'm so excited for this neon sign. I have already made a couple of these and I've sold them, so if you're looking to sell things, these are really inexpensive to make, super easy, and really popular. All you're gonna need is some sort of backer. I chose to use the medium draft board for mine, but I've seen people use acrylic, lots of tons and tons of options that you can use, so really be creative with yours. But I really liked the look of the wood on the back of mine. You'll need some EL wire, which you can get really inexpensive off of Amazon, and I'm going to link everything that I used down below, plus some super glue and some painter's tape or washi tape. I used washi tape and it's working just fine. So what you're going to do is we're going to create, and I'll show you guys how to make the design. We're going to use Inkscape for this, but it's really easy, so don't be intimidated if you've never used Inkscape before. Then we'll take it over to the Glowforge, get it all scored and cut out, and then I'll show you guys how to run your EL wire through your sign to make your very own really fun neon sign. Again, these are a great seller and you'll be able to pay off your Glowforge pretty quickly by selling something like this. Just be creative and have a lot of fun. So let's get started. I can't wait to show you guys how to make this.
Whatever we do it just for fun.
To make this neon sign, we are going to use Inkscape to design our SVG that we're then going to cut with our Glowforge. Don't be intimidated. This is actually pretty easy, and just follow along and I'm sure you'll understand how to do this. So the first thing that you'll want to do is figure out what word you want to use or phrase. In this case, I'm going to use the word create because I want to be able to hang this on my wall in my new craft room. So what I'm going to do first is over on the left-hand side of Inkscape, there is the letter A. Click on that and then click anywhere on your screen and type the word in or phrase that you want to use. Once you have that selected, you'll want to choose your font. Now I use wordmark.it to choose my font, but I already know what font I want to use, and I want to use a font called Wheat Point. I will link it down below for you guys. It's really cute, and I think that it works pretty well for doing a design like this. Now I do want to make this bigger, so in order to do so, what I can do is up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see this little arrow. That is your selection tool. You'll see that you now have little arrows around your design. What you want to do is hold Control on your keyboard and grab an arrow and just pull it out. If you don't hold Control, you won't keep the scale of your design here, and it'll kind of get it all messed up. The next thing that I want to do is actually turn this text into a path, which basically just is going to tell the Glowforge where to follow when we make the design. So what I'm going to do is go to Path, and you want to choose right here where it says Object to Path. It's the very first one. The next thing that we'll do is go to Object, and I want to ungroup my object. The next thing that I want to do is go to Path, and I want to choose Union. That's going to make my design all one piece so that when the Glowforge goes and does its thing, it's going to follow the path, so around the edge of each of the letters. This is also important because we are going to have an offset on this so that we have an edge to our neon sign. Now you can do a square or rectangle or whatever you want for your neon sign, but I really like the look of the offset, which an offset basically is, a lot of people will call it like a shadow layer, but it basically has the same kind of shape outline of your letters. So once you have everything turned into a path and you have unioned it, what you're going to do is make sure that your little snapping tool right here is not selected. It's up in that upper right-hand corner, and we're going to just click it to turn it off. The next thing we're going to do is make sure that your word is selected, go to Path, and almost to the bottom, about 5 up from the bottom, is the word Linked Offset. Choose that, and what you'll see is a diamond appears on your text. Typically, it's towards the left top of your letter. It's usually the very topmost point of your design. Now I'm going to change the color of my offset by just choosing any random color down here. This color does not matter, but just change it so it's a different color from your text. Next thing you're going to do is click on the diamond and drag it out. Now I don't want like a really, really big, I don't want a huge offset. Like that's too much of an offset for me. So you can kind of play with it and see about how large you want to go with your offset. Now keep in mind, you're going to want to be able to hide your battery pack behind this, as well as some of the extra cord. So you don't want to make it super small either, but I think that's a pretty good size. But you'll notice that our offset has some holes in it from the letters. That's completely normal and completely okay. An easy way to get rid of that is make sure your offset is selected. Go to Path, and what you're going to do is go to Break Apart, which is about in the center of the selections. And you'll see now that it fills in your holes. You'll see kind of how it's got these squares around all of your little holes. So what you'll do now is go to Path and then just choose Union. And that'll get rid of all those little holes that are in your design. You don't want those because you don't want the Glowforge to cut them out. The next thing that I want you to do is we are going to hold Control again, and we want to make sure that we have both pieces selected, and we're going to size it down so that it fits onto our paper. This is an important step because we have to add circles, or in this case, little holes, so that we can feed our wire through our design. So what we're going to want to do is print out our design so that we can figure out where the holes need to go to allow our wire to go through all the letters without overlapping itself a bunch and looking really weird. So what we'll do is we're just going to click File and then click Print. Select your printer, and I like to go to Preferences, and I just change this to grayscale because you don't need to print it out in color. There's no reason to. And we're going to write on this, so I wouldn't worry too much about it being in color. Go ahead and print that out, and I'm going to show you how to choose where the holes go for your design. So the next thing that we need to do when creating this is to figure out where we have to put those holes. So basically what you'll need to do is figure out where your EL wire needs to run in order to create the word create. So what I want to do is find my starting point. So I'm going to start here at the top of the C. So I'm just going to put a little X, which might be hard for you guys to see. But I'm just going to put an X here, and then I'm going to take my EL wire and run it along the C. Now I need to come out of the C down at the bottom, so I'm going to put a little mark there. Then I'm going to need to decide where I'm coming in to my R. So I'm going to come into my R right here at the top, and from here my EL wire is going to come down and go back up to the tip of my R, so we'll put another circle at the tip of the R. Now for the letter E, I'm going to put the circle right there, kind of in the middle of the swirl. So we're going to take our EL wire and we'll take it around the E. I will go up the A, back down the A to meet it at where the E and the A meet. So there'll be another hole right here. I need to come back in so I can make the bottom of the A. So I'll come in at the top, and then I'll just roll my EL wire along the T all the way over to the E. We'll come back through the E, and we're going to put another hole at the end of the E. Then the next place that we need to place a hole is right at the two tips of the T so that we can make the cross point in our T. Now that we've decided where our holes go, it's going to be all about kind of sizing from this point on. So the first thing I'm going to do is, again, draw a big square around my design. I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Now, Inkscape always defaults to millimeters. So up here at the top, kind of like if you've ever used Cricut Design Space, you'll see here that we have a width, a height, and then a lock button. Now I'm going to change this to inches, and then I'm going to go ahead and click my lock button. Now again, you can make this any size that you want. It's really up to you. EL wire is pretty thin, so I don't like to make these signs really, really big. But usually I would say about 9 inches is probably pretty good. So I can like size this down a little. So if I want to choose just a straight 9 inches, I can choose that. And then you'll see, because we locked it, that our height stays and it stays in its proportions. So now that we kind of have that figured out, what we want to do is get our circles ready so that we know everywhere that we need to feed the wire through the back and then back through the front. That's why we put those little X's there, because it shows you everywhere you need to put those little circles. Now, for this design, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and on the left side, you'll see that there's a Create Circles and Ellipses. It's a little pink circle. Go ahead and click on that. hold control and make a circle. It doesn't matter what size your circle is right now, just make a circle. And I always recommend changing the color of your circle so that it's different from the offset of your background. You'll understand why in a little bit. Now again, we want to make sure that our circle has the correct measurement that we want to use. So what I'm going to do is use my selection tool again, and you'll see that here it defaults back into our inches, which is great. Now 1.2 inches is huge and it's going to be way, way too big. So let's go ahead and size it down to about 0.3 inches and just see if that looks like it might be a better fit for our EL wire. I think 0.3 is probably going to be a good size to slide that wire through. It's not super thick, but it's also not super thin. So 0.3 inches should be just fine, and it'll hold it good and tight so you won't see the holes. Now, what you're going to want to do is look at that little map you made with the spaces that your holes need to be in. So we definitely need one here at the start of our C. Now, I will say I'm going to probably size this down a little bit more because this is pretty big for the size of our sign. So that's going to depend on, you know, how big you make your circle as well. So let's go ahead and try like 0.2. And let's see if 0.2 looks a little too small or if that looks about right. I actually think 0.2 is probably closer to the size that we want to go. So what you're going to do is place this circle on all the parts where you're going to put those holes. And I just use Control C and Control V to paste my next circle. The cool thing is that your circle that you're going to paste will actually paste itself wherever you have your mouse sitting. So if I want to paste another circle here at the top of my R, I can do that. And then remember, we need one at the top of our R over here. So again, and then I just sort of adjust them based on kind of where my letter is. Then remember, we need one here kind of on the E. And again, I just sort of click off of it so the little lines go away so I can see my circle a little bit better and really figure out where I want to put that. We need one here at the A here because we need to be able to feed that wire back through so that we can get it over to the top of the A. So we need to put one here at the top of our A. And again, we'll just kind of move it to where we think it should go. I think that looks pretty good. Now we need one here on our T. That's pretty good placement. And then we need another one here on our T as well. I'm going to actually move this one over a little bit just so that it's a little more even. And then the last one that we need is right here at the end of the E. Now again, I am going to move that a little bit because it came out of the area just a little bit more than I want it to. Now I think that looks pretty good. I think we've got all the holes where we want them. The holes are not too big and our sign looks really nice. What I want to do now is I'm going to select all of my circles by clicking each one while holding Shift to select every blue circle that we have here. Because we need to make sure that these are going to cut out of the offset. I like to do this a certain way. Rather than having multiple layers into the Glowforge app, I find it a little bit easier just to make it all one. So we're going to actually make these so that they come out of the red offset. So what I'm going to do is go to Path and I'm going to Union. That's going to create those circles as one item for Inkscape to understand what I mean. Then what I want to do is hold a Shift again and select my red offset. I want to go back to Path, and in this portion, I want to change it to Difference. What that's going to do is it actually cuts the circles out of the red. So now you can see that it'll easily cut those out of the red space, and we won't have to worry about having another layer that we have to try to remember to tell it to cut. I'm going to undo my move just so that my create word stays exactly where I want it. I think we're looking pretty good. I think everything looks really nice, and I think we're ready to go. So to use this in Glowforge, what you want to do is click File, and you want to click Save. And then you can just save it as an SVG. So I'm going to save this as Create Neon Sign, and I'm going to hit Save. Now we can head over to the Glowforge app and load this into the software. Now that we've designed our SVG over in Inkscape, we are going to come over to app.glowforge.com to load our design. So what you're going to do is click Upload, and you'll need to find the design that you used. So I saved mine in my Glowforge folder, and for this one, we called it Neon Sign Create. Now it's going to take a second, and it will process our design and get it loaded into the machine. and you'll see now that you have this simple blue blob, basically. Now, we're gonna first check our sizing. I like to check my sizing before I do anything else. So I just go down to this ruler and I just see what size it says that it is, because I found a lot of times I forget to resize it when I'm on my Inkscape. So I like to just come over here and I can resize this. So what I'm thinking I want to do is I probably want to make this about 9 inches total wide, because I think that that's going to give us a pretty good size for where I want to put this. So this is our fun design. So what you want to do is make sure that it's not in the way of any of these other holes. So that's like where I've cut previous things on my Glowforge. So you can kind of move it around and figure out where you want to put it. And I see how it turns red. That means you can't put it there or cut it from that area. So I just sort of try to not like take up a lot of my material. I like to make sure that I have, you know, I'm pretty stingy with my materials. Now we are using the Glowforge proof grade medium draft board, which is perfect for this project. And this is a great product. It's pretty thick, but it works really, really well. So the next thing that we need to do is to set up our different parts of our design to do what we want them to do. So over here, you can see we have the word create. Now I want to score the word create because it's just going to kind of draw the outline, and that's going to be our guide for where to place our neon rope. The next thing we have here is the background of our create, which is kind of that shadow layer. That's where the little holes are going to cut out. So this we want to make sure that it cuts. Now, the great thing with proof grade material is that it's already masked, it's already good to go, and it already has the settings in there for how it's going to cut. So you can see that it cuts at 183 speed on a full power for this product. And then over here, you can also look at what it does for your scoring. It scores at a speed of 300 with a 41 power. So that's easy, super simple setup, and it goes really quickly, and it's really easy to do once you have, you know, your proof grade materials set. Now, all we need to do from here is up at the upper like right-hand corner, under where it says the laser, which is the title of my Glowforge. You can name yours whatever you want. You're just going to click this word print. Now, I have a Glowforge Premium, which I highly recommend, and you're going to hear my Glowforge move around a little bit in the background. What it's doing is it's getting ready to focus on my material, figure out where everything is set. So right here you see it's preparing my print, auto-focusing on your material. So it's kind of rescanning your material and making sure that everything is right where you say it is. Now, before you hit print, I'm going to have us double check the placement of our design just to make sure that it didn't move at all, like when it refocused, and to make sure that it's just perfectly set right here. Now, the cool thing is it tells you exactly kind of how it's going to cut and how long it's going to take. This should only take us about 1 minute and 54 seconds. Once it's come up with this little button that says magic time, we're going to head over to the Glowforge. We're going to get ready to go ahead and score and cut this out. So I'm going to take you over there so that you can see what the machine does. We're ready over here at the Glowforge, and as you can see, we have this glowing button. What we're going to do is press that glowing button, and you'll see that the Glowforge is going to start. Now it is pretty loud, so I'm going to hold you here so you guys can see what it's doing. Once the Glowforge has kind of stopped making all that loud noise, you can go ahead and open it. And we're just gonna open it right here. And you'll see that there is your little design. So what you can do is pop it out, super simple. You can just grab the bottom of the material and kind of wiggle it out. And sometimes you'll have the little holes that'll stick in there. You can just take those out in a little bit. But we're gonna go ahead and unmask this and then get ready to stick our fun neon on. Now that we have our design cut out, we need to remove the masking, which is both on the back and on the front. I like to use a pin pen to help me get started removing the masking, but you can use duct tape. There's all sorts of ways to remove the masking, but I find that a pin pen works great just to kind of get it going. And you're just gonna peel it off. It's just kind of like peeling off like transfer tape in a way, and it just helps with the scorching on the design. So sometimes you'll have parts that don't want to come up. You can just kind of peel them with your finger and they should come up just fine, no problem. This is a little bit sticky, but not super sticky, so it's not gonna be sticking to everything or anything like that. So you can see we got the back done. So now we'll wanna do the front. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna get that pin pen under the edge of the masking and start the peel. And then we'll just peel all the masking off. So once that's done, I'll show you our next step. Now you can see what our sign is going to look like without all that little masking on it. And the next thing that we're going to do is run our EL wire through our design. So this is EL wire. It's pretty thin, and I'll turn it on. It just runs on batteries, the kind that I use. So it might be a little bit hard for you guys to see it glowing, but when I turn the strobe on, it's sometimes a little bit easier to see that glow. But you can really see it's really pretty, and we'll show you guys this in the complete dark as well. But what I do is you always want to keep your battery pack at the very back of your design. Now I'm just going to kind of stick mine to the back of it. You see how it fits so it won't be seen. So what I want to do first is I'm going to take all my EL wire and I'm going to find the end of it. So there's one end here. It has a little plastic cap. Don't lose that little plastic cap. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull it through my entire sign. So I'm going to start at the top of that C, and I'm just going to kind of untangle it. And it might have some tangles in it. It tends to come a little bit tangled. If it's got tangles, don't worry. We can easily get them out. They're usually just twists, so I wouldn't worry too much about it, but they come out pretty easy. And I want to pull the entire EL wire through because we're going to just make sure that we have that battery pack in the back and that we have enough wire. This is like 16 feet or something crazy. It's a lot of wire, so we have plenty for our small sign. But it's a lot easier if you just kind of pull it all the way through and figure out about where the end is. So that's probably about where I want to start my EL wire. It's right here. I've got a little left over on the side. So what we're going to do is we are going to get some super glue and we are going to glue this. And I recommend super glue. I've tried it with hot melt glue. It just was messy, but super glue seems to really work the best. E6000 can work as well. But what we're going to do is take our wire and just glue it all along the path here of our word. And that's why I liked having those score lines. It's going to be a lot easier to follow your path. So now you can see how the C kind of is coming together. Do you see how it kind of follows that path? So we're going to get some super glue. We're going to get this all glued down. Another item that's super helpful to have when you are getting ready to glue down is some tape. I like to use painter's tape, or washi tape will work as well. Now I'm going to use the gel glue from Loctite. So I've used this before and it works great for this. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open this, and you want to shake it a little bit to get some of that glue to kind of go down into your edge. And then I'm going to just put a bead of glue down. I don't want a really big one because this is just kind of how we're starting. And very, very carefully, so as I don't get the glue all over my finger, I'm going to lay down my EL wire. Make sure that your finger isn't touching the glue. You can wear gloves if you prefer when you do this. I do highly recommend just being very careful because you just don't want that glue to get on your hands. I have glued my fingers together before and I don't recommend it. So once your glue is pretty well set, you can use a piece of washi tape if you want to, or painter's tape, whatever works. I'll usually kind of let it sit and then I'll move on to the next section, and then I will come back and tape that down just so that I can kind of get around the curve and tape down a few extra pieces at the same time. So then we're going to kind of come around this curve. And like I said, I prefer this gel stuff. I find it a lot easier to control when it comes to like where I want my glue. And you don't need a lot of it, just a little will do. And see like what I mean? It kind of pops off. That's okay, don't worry. We will hold it down with the washi tape and all will be well with the world. But what I want to do is just make sure that it's held down now by my fingers. Again, making sure not to touch. So I'm going to go all the way around the sign. I'll get the C first and then I'll explain to you how we're going to go back on the back of our sign and then back through. So now we've come to the point where we need to feed our wire through the next holes. So what I want to do is I'm going to find the end, and actually while that's happening, make sure you put the cap back on your glue. And I've been kind of putting mine over to the side upside down because I am running a little bit low on glue. So what we're going to do is take the end and you are going to loop it into the hole. Now you'll want to kind of pay attention to where you've looped it. So you just want to make sure that you're looping it so that it's not going to cause too much of a bend. So I want to loop it on the outside of my C here, and then I just want to pull it through. Now this is going to take a second because again, we've put all the EL wire through this. I find it works best doing it that way. And you're going to want to make sure that it doesn't kind of get stuck around your battery pack, things like that. So it is a little bit precarious because there's so much wire when you do this. So just be aware that you're probably going to end up with like things like this where my battery pack kind of gets in my way. So you just want to make sure that it doesn't kind of end up with a knot in it, and just pull it through. And we're just going to kind of get it twisted so that it'll come through correctly, because you don't want to kink it or anything. So see how it's kind of got a little bend in it? You just want to try to get that bend out of it. Not always the easiest thing. You just kind of wiggle it a little bit. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to use a piece of washi tape. We will eventually glue this down, but you don't need to right now. You can just tape it for now. And then I'm just going to tape it down here on the back. That's just going to keep it from kind of wiggling around too much and getting all weird. So now we need to go through the top of the R with the end of our wire. So same situation, you're just going to kind of roll it through the hole. So you're just going to kind of poke it through that hole that you have, which again might be a little hard to do because you've got wire in the way. And again, make sure it doesn't wrap around your battery pack. Pull through. And you're going to do that through the whole thing. So it's like kind of like you would think about writing in cursive if you've done that recently, which I know a lot of us haven't. But it's kind of a similar idea. So you just want to make sure you get that kink out of there. So you kind of just roll it around a little bit and it'll come out. Now we have it coming through the R. So now what we'll do is we'll follow the path of the R, and it's going to get a little bit of a wonk in there in the bottom, and we'll just keep following it around. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all finished, and then I'll show you what it looks like when we're all done. Now that we've gotten all the EL wire through, we can pull off the tape. You're gonna wanna do this pretty careful just because you wanna make sure it didn't stick to any of the super glue. It should come off pretty easy though. It's really not super sticky tape, which is great. That's why I say painter's tape or washi tape for this. And you'll notice that certain parts I didn't tape because it was pretty well held down. I just tried to tape some of the parts that I was gonna be moving a lot and didn't want them to pop up. So like the beginning has a lot more tape on it because obviously I was moving the sign a lot more. You also want to be careful not to tape over spots that you need to get to. I taped over the hole, so I had to kind of poke the hole back out, but it was fine. We just worked with it. So now you'll see that you have all this great blue EL wire all around your sign. Now I am going to leave the washi tape on the back of this because you can't see it, and it's just holding down the extra wires, and you can always add one here. Now you can cut your EL wire, I probably will, and you want to make sure that when you do that, that at the very end of your EL wire is a little plastic, I don't know if you guys can see that little plastic guy. It doesn't want to focus on it, of course not. But there is a little plastic cap and it's really small. You'll want to hold on to that. It's super important that you hang on to that little cap. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry for a little bit longer, and then I will cut the EL wire, and then we can see the sign all working. Here is our finished sign. So I wanted to show you guys it finished with the lights off. Now, there are a few things I probably would have done a little bit differently when I ran the letters. I wish I would have taken the E and actually gone this direction and back around, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. It still looks fine. It's just things that you kind of play with and learn as you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn the lights off after I turn this on so that you guys can see what this looks like in daylight on. So you can see it's still really super bright, really, really fun. And it is so easy to do. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn the lights off so that you guys can see what this looks like with those off. Look at how bright that is. Now I do need to tape down this little piece of EL wire that's kind of sticking out the back, but it is so fun. You can do a ton with this. There are so many options, and really these are fantastic. They sell really well. I've had a friend who makes these and she has sold tons of them. They're great for weddings, they're great for graduations, they're great for birthdays, and again, you can make them really inexpensive and they look pretty pricey when you're done with them. Look at how good this looks. It's so fun, so easy, and you can see in the dark that you won't even notice that it's on a wood backer if you choose to use wood. The reason I chose to use wood was because then I didn't have to cover up any of the cording in the back so that none of the light shone through. If you choose to use something clear, you're going to need to put some electrical tape or some sort of thick tape around the back of all of the wires in the back, because otherwise you'll see them shine through. Now you can see a little bit of the reflection, so you can kind of see, I have this on a piece of tape, but you can see that there is light on the back of this, and so if I hold it up against like a wall, you can see a little bit of shine from the back. You can always just cover that tape up if you want to. It's really up to you and how you want to do it. I hope you guys learned some skills with Inkscape and with your Glowforge with this fun custom neon sign. If you have any questions, please let me know in those comments down below. I'm always happy to help you guys. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting.